Welcome back to the 1% Insight. Today I am delighted to be joined by Shree Magdani, Marketing Manager at TAMI. TAMI provides companies with pinpoint accuracy on who they should be selling to, streamlining your sales strategy and improving your prospecting efforts. Shree is driving pipeline growth with TAMI, developing campaigns that have 3x qualified demos, and developed TAMI's first ever ICP-led content engine for logistics, e-commerce and payments. Welcome to the 1% Insight, Shree.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm delighted to be here.
As you know, the 1% Insight, we're all for B2B Tech content marketers, B2B Tech marketing teams, go-to-market and sales. We'd love to share with the listeners how you got into the world of B2B technology marketing.
My journey has been pretty linear. I did international marketing at uni, came out of uni, was looking for a marketing job. And I started off in facilities management software, then kind of moved into the world of EdTech. And then moved into the world of digital mental health solutions for students, and then further moved on to the world of AI lead generation. That's where I am now with TAMI.
How have you found the evolution from when you started getting out of uni to now, in that period of time, the evolution of the technology?
Every day is a learning day when you're in marketing because everything is changing constantly. I think even if you look at things like Google's algorithm when you're posting ads out on Google Ads versus LinkedIn's algorithm, the introduction of TikTok now, Twitter turning to X, everything, there's been so much that's happened in the span of since I graduated in 2019 to now of everything you've learned at uni is effectively just not effective anymore because it's changed so much. The fundamentals obviously are still the same. You have your theories and you have your strategies, etc. But the execution plans have changed massively. Buyers are not where you thought they were going to be 5-10 years ago. COVID has changed so much as well in buyer behaviors. The presence of people being at events kind of dipped down for a long time as well. And that used to be one of our biggest lead gen campaigns and marketplaces effectively. So much has changed. But that's what I love about it as well. Every day is pretty much a school day. Somebody has released something. AI has now become the latest trend. There's been so many movers and shakers in the industry and for marketers as a whole that it's actually become more of a creative space for us now. There's a lot more autonomy in what you can do. I think back in the day, there was the bog standard of you need to do a white paper, you need to do a report, and you need to do a webinar, and you need to push it out there, you need to get hundreds of people on this webinar, and then you need to sell to all of them. Whereas now you're kind of thinking at it from a different angle of, okay, we need to have those 7 touch points and we need to be visible 7 times before they even consider purchasing or making contact. And that kind of experimentation and journey and the A/B testing into that side of things is evolved so much, and especially in the past, I'd say 3 or 4 years.
So I think that the next, especially 5 to 10 years, the landscape of B2B technology marketing will be completely different. Those who are agile enough and open enough to, go with the changes and, utilize them to your advantage. And I guess that's where smaller tech companies can kind of really compete with the giants now in terms of being nimble, AI native, and being able to roll with that. I'd love to learn more about what you do at TAMI.
Yeah, for sure. So TAMI, as I mentioned, it is an AI B2B market intelligence and lead generation platform. So if you've heard of the likes of Cognism, ZoomInfo, Lusher, etc., Apollo, you may have heard of TAMI as well. We are a startup business at the moment, but we are setting ourselves apart and we are actually landing some really, really big whales in the industry because of the AI accuracy that we offer. So I think, as you mentioned, there's so much uncertainty with it. The AI that we have embedded in our platform and the AI that our team have built essentially is GDPR compliant. It basically looks at open source web pages and it indexes everything from that. So a website, open LinkedIn profiles, and it gathers all the data from that and it constantly refreshes our platform. So the one big thing that we offer that a lot of companies can't offer is data accuracy. So that's mobile numbers, email addresses, because our AI is always working in the background. It's always updating it. If you were to search for a company and our AI hasn't picked up on it, it effectively goes and does its job to find that information for you. For us, I think our winning USP right now is the accuracy that we can actually offer. I think a lot of the companies out there, they boast about the volume of contact data they have out there. They'll say they've got 500 million, however many mobile numbers, etc., across the globe. You dig in a little bit deeper and you look at the data, and people do email campaigns out to those data lists, and they have like a 6-7% bounce rate, whereas you do the same data list from ours and it's around 2 to 3%. And that's something that we're really, really proud of, and that's why we're getting a lot of buy-in at the moment. So super exciting time for TAMI, super exciting time for the industry as well, because I think there's been so many things that have happened, around like GDPR compliance, etc., especially when you're handling data and things like that. And it gave us the opportunity to really shine as the brand that people can trust, people can rely on, but also people can use on a day-to-day basis to constantly be winning new business.
It's a very difficult, job for people in that prospecting role in terms of getting in front of the right people, but taking the step before that and actually identifying them, because, many companies will have their ICP, have their target audience set, but, finding them is a totally different challenge. And, a lot of people were doing it manually for years, just took way too long. And then, like you said, getting data that they can't necessarily trust. People change jobs all the time. You're sending emails or communications to people and they're not even in the role anymore, and you're just wasting resources. So it's a huge unlock, I think, for sales and marketing teams as well. Is there any particular industry, Shree, that you're focusing on with TAMI in terms of using the software?
Yeah, so we focus on e-commerce, payments, shipping and logistics, and MarTech as well. So, we've recently brought on Trustpilot as one of our big clients. We've got so many names. I'm not going to sit there and name drop because we're not here for that conversation, but we've got so many names that we're working with at the moment, and they all have different requirements of what they need from a data vendor, essentially. Because our AI is working so hard in the background, we can find things like payment providers, we find traffic insight data, we find the platform websites were built on, because that's super important, shipping and logistic information as well. Our platform allows people to search by VAT numbers as well. So that really sets us apart. But yeah, it's honestly just a really exciting time, and to have a voice and to speak to other marketers who maybe in a startup world, maybe in like the large corporate world, but trying to maintain the momentum at the moment when there's so many things changing. I'm really happy to be here to be speaking about it.
It's an exciting time for B2B marketing and B2B tech marketing, especially in terms of previous years. It was, pay to play almost, but now the organic, the creative side is becoming an advantage and a USP for brands to differentiate and build that trust, because obviously when they're prospecting, a lot of the people in market right now, they're not actually in market, even though we all like to believe that people are going to love to buy our product or service. Once we send a message, boom, it's just open the floodgates, we're going to get loads of sales and demo requests, when the reality is, over 95%. That's the 95-5 rule from the Ehrenberg Bass Institute. Now, I never like to quote, theory as fact. It's a theory, but it does show that it might be a large proportion of your target market right now aren't in the market to buy. They might be in with, vendors already, and they might be on a yearly contract. They simply can't, even though you might be superior in many of the features and they want to. In terms of marketing that then, Shree, how have you had to kind of create that go-to-market strategy? And has there been challenges along the way in terms of kind of finding that core marketing strategy for TAMI?
Yeah, look, I'm not one of those marketers that's going to say that I had the perfect strategy each and every time. I think we have all been there where we have failed at an element of marketing, or we thought something was going to work super, super well. And then actually when you hit the go live button, it all kind of falls flat on its face. But for us, because we have data at our fingertips, you kind of almost sit there and you're like, right, we have all of our ICPs right now. How do we get in front of them? Like you said, 95% of your buyers aren't ready to buy for whatever reason. That may be vendor contracts. They might just not have the budget approval yet. There might be structural changes in their org. It could be anything. We kind of started the project of bringing marketing to fruition of, we are not going to be lead gen, we're going to be demand gen. And I think that's the key difference in how you market is, if you're going to be lead gen, you're going to be doing those things that are going to be almost I'm going to go after every single person and we're going to get those demos booked in. They already know about us and we will get those conversions in. Whereas the demand gen side of things is very much focused on education, thought leadership, pushing yourself out there, partnerships, podcasts, everything that you can do to really push yourself and your brand out there. Get them to know you, get them to remember you, get them to learn about you. And then when they're ready, we will be the first thought in their mind. And it's playing the long game. And I think when you work in a startup, you do have to kind of reiterate that it is a long game strategy. And You're not going to get those big quick wins in all the time, but it will work in the future, because when we do need to get loads of inbound leads in and we need them to be super qualified leads, we've already done the work in the background to make sure that they already know about us and that trust has already been built. So, we, like I said, we had a massive list of data and we still have a list of data, but for us, it was about segmentation. It was about communicating with the sales team to say, look, who have you guys actually approached in the past and what was their reason for not buying? Was it a product issue? Was it a competitive issue? Was it a pricing issue? Let's bucket all of those up. And we do a lot of account-based marketing now, because we don't want to be those people who, especially working in AI, you don't want to look like a bot, right? You send out emails to 50,000 contact lists and it's all going to be very, very generic. We don't like to market like that. We want things to be quite personalized, and we want it to feel like we're speaking to you as the person who we want to buy into TAMI. So our approach has changed a lot over the past few months when it comes to things like that. And don't get me wrong, we do things like events and webinars and, things like that. But I think the one-to-many approach hasn't worked so well for us in the past, that we're trying to kind of make it feel way more personalized now. And it just echoes throughout our entire business. Like, marketing is very personalized, but then like it goes down to when somebody signs up for a trial, the demos that they have, the customer service at the back of that, the onboarding, everything is just very much like, we want to look after you.
And like, it's even an art now in terms of how people are getting so personalized. You're seeing like some companies really go outside the box, literally sending, pardon the pun, but sending literally gift boxes or letters, and they're going back to basics, like something that you would have seen, at the end of the last century almost, in terms of how the advertising world was working there. So people are going with that approach that you're also doing, that you're seeing that trend in the market as well, in terms of make it personalized, make it specific, and you'll have a much higher chance of converting those, or at least getting the conversation anyway. Usually, like, once you get the conversation, they can see all the capabilities and they'll see it, but just by cutting through the noise, because there's so much noise, you must get it yourself as well, all the inbound messages each day that aren't very specific, or they might, scrape something from your LinkedIn and they might quote you're saying at your last job or something like that, saying, oh, I love the work you're doing at X, and it's not relevant at all. Straight away, you never want to talk to them again. You've lost that lead. So like, how have you found that in terms of obviously the outbound, but with the demand gen as well? Is social like a big part of that demand gen playbook that you're running at the moment for TAMI?
Yeah, so I mean, social's always going to be a big thing for us. We looked into all of the platforms and we were thinking, right, how can we actually get in front of our ICP? And obviously the obvious choice is LinkedIn. LinkedIn is where all of our players are, but LinkedIn before was just made for recruiters, and now it's evolved into being a space for every single professional that's in any kind of industry, which means it's a massive playing field for us. It also means that we don't need to be directly selling to people all the time, but we can get involved in conversations that are about topics that we know a lot about. We've got so many thought leaders in the industry and in our company right now, but how do we build a relationship and, again, like, play the long game? Like, message somebody on LinkedIn, say that you're really interested in their campaign that they've done, you want to learn more, and then kind of take it from there. Because not every opportunity is going to lead into revenue for us, but it's going to lead into an introduction for us, or it could lead into a conversation that they might have in the future and they talk about us. Those kind of things are really, really important for us. But social for us is, it's a massive thing. When you're so small as well, and you have to think about how you can grow organically, social media where you can post freely, you can post from every account, you can also post from your company page. It really has helped shape what messaging we want to portray out to the market as well. So it's one of those ones that are just here to stay, and we love it and we embrace it.
Something I've heard from your recent podcast as well, because TAMI sponsoring the Payment Shed podcast.
Yeah.
How did that kind of collaboration come about?
So I don't know if you know Justin and Grant, but so Justin's from NomuPay and Grant is from WorldPay. Justin actually used TAMI previously. So at NomuPay, they were using our platform quite a lot. So there was a relationship built actually before I even started at TAMI. And he wanted to start this podcast, and obviously he knew that payments was one of our ICPs, and payments is such a busy marketplace. There's so many products out there and it's constantly evolving as well, but there are a lot of people who are very old school when it comes to payments. So it's a very dynamic industry. And they've always been influencers on LinkedIn. They've really built up their own networks. They've got tens of thousands of followers each. So they've really been the voice on LinkedIn. And Justin actually reached out to us to say, like, look, we've got this idea. We want to start this podcast because we've got a lot to say. And we've got a lot of people we want to talk to, but we want to be more thought leader position in the market, but we want to do it through a podcast. And I was like, love it. Everyone wants to be on a podcast. Everyone loves a podcast. So how can we help you? And then the partnership just came out and the sponsorship happened because we wanted to support them. We see massive potential in them. But for us as well, it gives us a different avenue to vocalize what TAMI does as a brand as well. You know, they have tens of thousands of followers who we may never ever be able to reach without the support of the podcast. So those kind of angles for us have been massive wins, and we've already seen some good inbounds at the back of that as well. So it's been very successful for us as a business.
Yeah, and it's a fantastic example of actually finding who your ICP is and, you know, collaborating with people that, you know, it's not all just from your company. You can go out of the office walls and actually collaborate with people that are, you know, also speaking to that ICP, because that's something I speak to when we're trying to find, you know, let's say the go-to-market strategy, marketing strategy from a social point of view anyway, in terms of how tech companies can engage with their target audience. Sometimes just going a bit beyond the traditional means. So obviously, yes, you know, LinkedIn, B2B, place to B2B, all the campaigns, they're spot on with it. But sometimes there's other opportunities that it might be the collaboration with a podcast, might be teaming up with someone that isn't necessarily a competitor, but shares the same target audience. It could be a complementary tool that you have, and they might be active on, for example, Instagram. And you never considered Instagram, but, you know, they've built a large following of their ICP there. It's a new insight for you, and you start collaborating on a video series, delivering value on topics relating to that target audience group. So that's a fantastic example of it. And obviously with LinkedIn, I guess the main social platform for B2B right now anyway, and it has been for many years. How are you finding the balance between the company brand and the founder-led brand?
Yeah, I mean, for us, the personal brand side of things has always kind of been, and I shouldn't say this, but I'm going to be honest, has always been an afterthought, because we have been so focused on getting as many people following the business brand, just naturally because we've got all of the content produced for that. It's all very salesy, and then we have like a few of like the events that we do and partnerships, etc. So that was kind of the main focus now. And it's actually funny that you mentioned about personal branding, because I just had a meeting with the team about the personal branding, and we have now got to the stage with the product page where we can just schedule things in, get it moving, and we're fine with that. You know, we're really focused on our ICP there. Whereas with the personal branding, it's about the journey of TAMI. It's about why, like our founder, Liz, she produced this product because she was working at PayPal and they had a need for this product. So she built this product, and now it's become a whole business in itself. Like that kind of story, how are we going to portray that? How are we going to push that out to the market? That kind of stuff is nuggets that would hold less value on the product page, but hold so much value for her. We are also working with our development team as well. You know, developers are very quiet. They do amazing things, but they don't really have much presence on social media. Generally speaking, they like to be the ones that are behind the camera, quite like marketers, but they are very much behind the camera. And we're going to be doing a lot of work with them, talking about kind of AI trends, about things that are changing, how TAMI developed their AI, all of those nuggets of information that could really help a business that's trying to break through the market as well, but also putting their faces behind the business as well. Like I said, we're not robots. We're an AI business, but we're not just machines. You know, we're real people, and they have played a massive part in getting TAMI to where it is today. So they should absolutely have that platform to be able to speak about that as well. That's going to be the challenging one, because I know they're all really, really shy guys as well, but they do need to have that voice. So it's going to be a lot of working with them, getting video content out there, getting blogs out there, and just amplifying the sound of this is everything that these guys have done, and TAMI can't take all the credit. It's their brains, it's their learning, and they should also have that journey too.
Yeah, it's something we see a lot now in terms of LinkedIn, is that you obviously have the core company page, which is fantastic for the feature updates, events, sharing content, different pieces like that. But what I've noticed, especially through our own content as well, is that the team-led content just outperforms. And even we've got feedback from clients saying that like they've been at events or whatever, and they said, oh, we've heard that podcast you're on. And it's all these things that aren't always visible to the measurement, the tracking, but sometimes they make the most impact is what people are thinking up here, but that sometimes doesn't always translate into your CRM, which is difficult for, C-suite teams when they're saying, we're putting this money here, we need to be seeing the ROI. And sometimes, like you alluded to there with the long game approach, which is the, long-term brand play for marketing, is that it can be difficult to keep, putting campaigns out there for, the large market that aren't in market to increase those chances of developing into demos 6 months down the line, 12 months down the line. But that is difficult for C-suite to see if they're not from a marketing lens. How have you found that? Or is there any tips that you could share with maybe there's similar B2B tech marketing managers that are trying to get budget, for example, for those campaigns to kind of showcase that, yes, you can see the ROI straight away, but this is what you could expect in the future. And this is what's going to happen for other companies in similar markets.
I think, like you kind of hit the nail on the head. Like C-suite don't want to give budget to things that aren't going to give ROI immediately. We all know that. We've all kind of been there in those meetings, and you're kind of sat there thinking, right, I've got all of these ideas for so many things, and maybe 3 of those things will give ROI. And again, it's not, you can do as much testing as you want in the market and you can forecast to the bone, but you just don't know. It's up to whoever receives that information and how they react to that. And then of course you optimize and you change things around, but at the end of the day, it's a forecast for a reason. For us, we do a lot of brand awareness campaigns on LinkedIn, but then we have our TAMI versus whatever on Google, and we have all of our bidding on there. So we've shifted a lot of budget over to Google because that gives us the most inbound, and then we use LinkedIn for brand awareness. I think the one piece of advice that I would give to somebody who's trying to pitch that to C-suite who doesn't really have much background in marketing is map it out as much as possible. Map it out to say, this is the brand awareness campaign, this is the lead gen campaign. They are going to run down this way, and then eventually they will meet in the middle, and that's where your inbounds will come in, because you want to be targeting the right people. You don't want to go down the spray and pray route unless that's your strategy, and then by all means, I'm not judging you. Might work, might not work, but you're going to blow through a lot of budget. But also remember that LinkedIn is an expensive platform to advertise on. It can get very, very expensive if you're not doing it in a smart way. But make sure you have clear goals set out and objectives set out, because if you can't prove revenue, prove another element of success like web traffic or clicks or downloads, whatever it may be. And that's your proof of concept there. And you can say, well, this was a successful campaign because we've got all these people in the pipeline.
What has been, in your experience over the last kind of 4 or 5 years working in the kind of tech marketing space, what has been some of the most valuable lessons you've learned from maybe campaigns or maybe insights from, dealing with, B2B audiences?
I think the most valuable lesson for me is keep trying, I think is the big, big one. I was actually speaking to somebody yesterday who's a demand gen manager, and we've kind of just it's been a very random conversation that we had, and it just went off on a massive tangent, but we were just basically throwing around ideas. And, we were talking about the fact that you have your standard things that will work. And when you're working in such a busy industry and it's so saturated and everyone has a voice and everyone's amplifying their voices, you need to learn how to set yourself apart from that. I think if you're a new business, don't be a copycat of what's working well in the market. Use that as a foundation and think about how you're going to do it even better, but in a way smarter way, because it works for them, but it doesn't mean it's going to work for you. Nobody wants to see the same sets of ads from 2 different companies. They're obviously going to go for the brand that they trust and have heard about more. You need to figure out what your sweet spot is to really get in front of those people. And it might be events. It might be going to, we're doing events at the Excel because it works really, really well for us being in person and having that conversation. We have a really vibrant sales team. Use those assets and put them out there so that they can really shine on the floor. It could be webinars. If you have a massive network and you have loads of thought leaders in your network, get them together, have a conversation, discuss it on a panel, create content at the back of that. Podcasting. Honestly, I know people always kind of slam podcasts because they're everywhere. Everyone wants to be a podcaster, but they actually work when you hold true value to it. If you're not just talking about kind of airy fairy things that don't really hold much value, then it can be super, super interesting for people. But just keep trying. You have to keep trying and don't give up. I think I see a lot of the time, and I said this in my previous podcast, that you often have campaigns that run for about 2-3 weeks and you're not getting any traction at the back of it. And then all of a sudden you turn off that campaign. Whereas a campaign should be running for about 3, 4, 5 months. And that includes when it goes live, the build before that, the nurturing that happens after that. If you don't have any of those inbounds coming in or any of those downloads, what are you actually doing with the nurture track? Then it is money down the drain. Give it a chance. Look at the data, absorb the data, make small tweaks often, but not too often. I'd say every 3 or 4 weeks, and then just see what happens.
Sure that you're being visible, and not being visible is just not even an option anymore, because literally if your market are searching online, you will not be found. You will not be in the consideration stage. You won't even be in their awareness stage of the B2B buyer's journey, because they won't even know you exist, even though you might have much better capabilities than competitors and pricing and reliability and all that. But it won't matter, because they'll never even know you exist. And by the time they get to the decision stage, they've gone through the whole rigmarole of finding potential vendors, screening them, going through the whole buying committee that exists within companies now. So it's really important that you're present on a lot of platforms, not just one. Like with LinkedIn, it's pulling information from there, but YouTube is still the second largest search engine, I'm pretty sure. So like they're going to be pulling information from there in search results, in terms of the information you're putting in your titles, descriptions, the actual videos as well that you're putting out, and obviously your website then in terms of written content. How can they easily extract it and make it accessible for these AI large language models to take the information and then showcase your brand up front. So that would be a really interesting space.
Do you know what? It's so interesting, and it's almost turned everything on its head a little bit as well, because I think with LLMs, because they're looking at so many different sources of information, they don't just look at your own personal website. They look at third parties and how they're kind of talking about your brand. They look at review platforms, because that's where they get a lot of their information from as well. Like you said, YouTube is a big thing, and it always will be a massive thing. But it's funny, because I always used to be kind of that marketer to say, look, especially because our KPIs have always been revenue driven, especially in a startup, that's everyone's KPIs. We never used to focus on the vanity metrics. We always used to say, look, you might have got 100,000 impressions on something, but if you didn't get that 1, 2, 3, 4 conversion, it's not relevant to us. Whereas now we've actually rejigged our Google analytics to make sure we do have a section for LLM, so we can see how visible we are. There's loads of platforms out there that now can give you ideas on how you can come up in AI prompts and things like that. Gives you ideas of what content you need to be pushing out there. But it's interesting, because it's one of the things that I look at so often now to be like, right, how often are we actually showing up here, and what can we be doing different? But 5 years ago, if somebody said to me, how often are we showing up on LinkedIn and what can we do different? I'm like, that's not that important. Right now, we need to be focused on kind of all the other hanging fruits, not this one. So it's interesting how the mindset's completely shifted now because of the introduction of AI.
It is totally. It's always changing. And I guess that'll be the opportunity for B2B technology marketers, is that if you stay agile and stay open, I think that's probably the biggest word, is just being open to new ideas and new technologies and new ways of thinking and new research. To kind of better, prepare yourself for campaigns you're running for your company. That'll be really interesting, and a big kind of competitive advantage as well if you have a whole team of marketers that are, open-minded and open to new challenges and kind of rising to meet them. It'll be a fantastic asset to any company. Is there any favorite campaigns, Shree, that kind of stand out from your time at TAMI?
I think the one that is my favorite at the moment is when we launched our Browse Companion, which is just our Chrome extension to TAMI. So it's part of one of our lower packages, and we really wanted to target marketers and salespeople basically around the globe. And it has all the information that the platform has, bar a few filters, etc. And when we launched that campaign, we were kind of thinking, right, how do we angle this in a way where we are going to stand out? Because all of our competitors have this Chrome extension. but ours is better. And how can we showcase that? So there was something that we did where we went around all of the London Underground stations and we basically took photos of like platform signs and advertising signs, and we posted it all on social media, and we did this massive campaign. Obviously, we edited it to make it look like TAMI was advertising. Obviously, we don't have the budget to do underground advertising, but we did a lot of editing in the background. And it was honestly so much fun just pushing it out there in that different angle where it's something nobody would think about, but it's something that people would look out for, like especially in London, that if somebody saw our ad and they were traveling on the underground, would they look at those signs and say, oh, is that a TAMI ad? Is that not a TAMI ad? It gave us a lot of good traction on the website and a lot of good feedback on the campaign, but also the product as well, because people just wanted to know what we were launching. And it was kind of a 3-stage launch where we were kind of ramping up interest to say something's coming very soon, and we used the ads for that. And then it was the launch day, and then it was kind of the post-launch as well, and really keeping momentum going with that. I love that one because I think thinking outside the box with these kind of campaigns where you're not drowned out by all the other noise around you is always going to be beneficial. But it's also something you can think about as well. Like, I'm always going to love something that's way more creative. You know, we write a lot of reports and we do a lot of our own research and stuff, and all of that stuff is so good for the industry and them getting to know kind of what's moving and what's shaping the industry. But it's those bits and those moments I'm like, I freaking love marketing, because you can do anything and you can make it work, and you just need that support from like Liz, our founder, just to say, yep, go for it. And she's from Ireland as well, and she was in, I think, Dublin airport, and she was taking photos for us in the airport that we could use as our advertising as well. So, you know, it was a really all-encompassing campaign. It was quite wholesome.
It makes it all worthwhile because obviously when you're doing the regular weekly communications and things like that, they're obviously kind of nearly not templated, but you kind of have a set routine and you know what works and what doesn't work, and there's kind of like guidelines of how it all works together. When you get to do something like that, kind of out of home advertising and bringing it to people online and getting the impact from that, it's pretty cool. So that sounds actually great. It's a great idea. If you could share one piece of advice, Shree, for B2B technology companies trying to grow their business through marketing, what would it be?
I mean, I said it before, is experiment. You have to experiment. I think don't go into a strategy thinking that once you set the strategy at the start of the year, this is what you're sticking to. Be agile. I have honestly my best ideas, just the most random moments in the day. Like I'll be waking up in the morning and I'm like, right, I need to write this down, or shower thoughts, or going to the gym, whatever it is. Like I have ideas that really do shift the strategy all the time. And I think you need to be super agile with things, because the industry is changing all the time. The start of this year to now where we are today, the marketing kind of horizon has changed quite a bit already. So you don't know what's going to happen from January to December, but keep amplifying your voice. And that doesn't mean just do it on your company page. We've spoken about personal branding today. You also have your own personal brand, and you also need to have your voice on your platforms as well. I think as marketers, we spend a lot of time creating content for the sales team to push out or for the founders to push out, but you are also quite an instrumental person in the company. You also need to have that brand. You are also a thought leader, and don't be afraid of pushing something out there that's only 80% perfect. You know, that 20% doesn't matter. Nobody cares about that 20%. I learned that the hard way. I was always a perfectionist when I'd look at ads and be like, oh, that needs a little bit of tweaking. And it'd take days to push it out. Whereas nobody that's looking at it, the consumer of those ads, don't give a crap, because they're not sat there in front of design tools, and they're not going to not buy with you because your ad had a tiny little spelling mistake or the graphic looked a little bit odd. They really don't care. So keep experimenting, keep trying, and just don't give up. It's a hard industry, but it's a very, very fun and fulfilling industry as well.
So before I let you go, Shree, we have a rapid fire round here. Best book for B2B tech marketers?
Honestly, I would say if you're going to read a book, start with the fundamentals of marketing, because not much has changed there. Obviously, there's been a lot of movers in terms of platforms, etc., but the fundamentals are still very much there. So read that, consume that, highlight that, make notes in that, and use that as your go-to, because that is honestly going to be there for another 50, 60 years.
Company Not TAMI. You can't say TAMI. That is doing great B2B tech marketing.
They're not a direct competitor, but they're similar in the industry, and it's a company called ClickUp. And the reason why I say that is because they have done such a good job in building a community within the LinkedIn community. They have loads of ambassadors, and they have loads of like specialists who train up people who are buying into ClickUp, and they are all over LinkedIn. As soon as you follow their page, like every single scroll, there's ClickUp. Every single place you look, and they're doing such a good. It's annoying, and I really want to be like them, but they're doing such a good job, and it's someone to look at, I think, if you are trying to build community on social media.
The last one is, if you weren't in marketing, what would you be doing?
That's such a funny question, because I was actually speaking to somebody about this the other day, where I was like, if I wasn't in marketing, what would I be doing? Do you know what? I would have gone down the route of something to do with psychology. I've always loved the way that the brain works. So did it at A level, and I didn't really take much notice of it when I was looking at my career and stuff, but I find the brain so interesting, and it really plays into marketing. But if it wasn't marketing, then it would be something to do with psychology.
Very cool. Shree, thank you for sharing your 1% insights today. Where can our listeners find you, and where can they find TAMI?
So you can find us, TAMI is www.tami.ai, but you can also find us on LinkedIn, and you can also find me on LinkedIn. Just search for Shree Magdani. I'm sure you'll see podcasts left, right and centre of mine anyway. But yeah, if you have any advice, or you have a concept and you're struggling to bring it to life, please just message me. I'm honestly so happy to help. Jump on a call with you guys anytime.